The rain came down like a curtain of silver spears, thick enough to blur the shapes of the trees into living shadows. Daniel stumbled through the undergrowth, boots sinking into mud that smelled of iron and sap. His oxygen mask flickered as the filter hissed against the humidity. Of all the planets to crash on, he muttered, it had to be this one. The jungle hissed in reply, a low chorus of insect clicks and deep-throated calls that vibrated through the ground. He checked the scanner on his wrist. The distress beacon from his escape pod was still broadcasting, but faint, too faint. The storm must have knocked the signal out. He sighed and pushed forward, ducking beneath roots thicker than his torso. That was when he heard it, a sound so small it barely rose above the rain. A whimper. He froze. It wasn't human, too soft, too melodic. But it was afraid. He turned off his flashlight and listened, heartbeat quickening. Another sound followed, sharper this time, like claws scraping stone. Great, he whispered. Something's hunting. He moved toward the noise anyway, guided by instinct more than reason. The whimper came again, weaker now. He parted a curtain of hanging vines and saw a small figure crouched beneath a fallen trunk, blue-skinned, trembling, its golden eyes wide with terror. It couldn't have been older than 4 or 5 in human years, though its proportions were strange, elongated limbs, subtle ridges on its forehead, tiny fangs catching the light. Hey, he said softly, raising his hands. Easy. I'm not gonna hurt you. The child flinched at the sound of his voice, then whimpered again. Behind him, the jungle shifted. A low growl rumbled through the rain, followed by movement too heavy to be any predator he knew. Daniel turned slowly, weapon half-raised. A shape emerged from the foliage, not one, but several, sleek and black, moving low to the ground. Their eyes glowed amber. Oh, hell, he whispered. The creatures fanned out, circling the log where the child hid. Daniel didn't think, he lunged forward, scooping the small being into his arms. The child let out a startled cry as he sprinted toward a ridge. The predators gave chase immediately, their claws tearing through mud and roots. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a blur of blue scales and silver armor on the beasts' backs. Daniel fired blindly behind him, the crack of his plasma pistol drowned by thunder. One creature leapt, he turned mid-run and shot, striking it in the shoulder. It spun out with a shriek, but 2 more replaced it instantly. He stumbled into a clearing, breathing hard, mud splattering his visor. The terrain dropped sharply ahead, a ravine. He didn't hesitate. He leapt, sliding down the wet slope and crashing into a pool of shallow water below. Pain shot through his ankle, but he forced himself upright. The child clung to him, shivering, its tiny hands gripping his collar. You okay, kid? He gasped. No response, only a faint, frightened hum. The predators above howled but didn't follow. The slope was too steep, the current too strong. He allowed himself a brief laugh. Guess we got lucky. The child blinked up at him, studying his face with unblinking golden eyes. For a moment, Daniel thought he saw recognition there, something ancient and knowing that didn't belong in a child's stare. Then the moment was gone, replaced by exhaustion. Yeah, he said softly, me too. They took shelter in a hollow beneath a massive root system that night. The rain drummed endlessly on the canopy above, a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Daniel removed his mask briefly to breathe the thick air, testing it. Toxic in high doses, but survivable for a while. He sat near the child, who had curled into a ball, arms wrapped protectively around its knees. He tore open a ration pack and pushed it gently toward them. Hungry? He asked. The child sniffed the food, then glanced up at him suspiciously. It's safe, he said, taking a bite himself. See. After a moment, the child copied him, nibbling cautiously. Good, he murmured. So, what do I call you? The child tilted its head, uncomprehending. He pointed to himself. Daniel. Then at the child. Silence. Finally, the little one placed a small hand on his chest. Danelle, it said slowly. He smiled despite himself. Close enough. When morning came, the rain had thinned to mist. Daniel climbed to higher ground, carrying the child on his back. The forest was alive again, birds, or something like them, croaking in the treetops, insects gleaming like shards of glass. He checked his scanner again. The beacon signal had stabilized, faint, but real. We're heading the right way, he said. Maybe we'll find help. The child didn't respond but hummed softly, a melodic sound that seemed to make the vines above shift slightly, as if reacting to it. You can control them, he asked, glancing up. The humming stopped. The vines drooped again. Okay, he muttered. Creepy. They moved for hours until the jungle began to thin, replaced by ruins, enormous stone pillars etched with alien symbols, half swallowed by moss and roots. The child reached out to touch one, murmuring a word he didn't recognize. The stone pulsed faintly under its fingers. Yeah, Daniel whispered. That's not ominous at all. They didn't get far. The sound came first, a sharp whistle that cut through the air like a blade. Daniel ducked instinctively as a spear embedded itself in the trunk beside his head. Down, he shouted, pulling the child close. Figures emerged from the mist, tall, lithe, and armed. Their skin was the same deep blue as the child's, their eyes gold and burning. One stepped forward, her armor carved from bone and metal, her hair braided in white cords down her back. She was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Drop it, she hissed, pointing her weapon at him. He raised his hands. Hey, take it easy. I'm not your enemy. Her eyes flicked to the child clinging to his leg, and her expression changed, from fury to something sharper. Where did you get him? He was alone, Daniel said quickly. I found him in the forest. Those things were, he didn't finish. She was already moving. The huntress closed the distance in 2 strides, snatching the child from his grasp. The boy whimpered, reaching back toward Daniel, but she held him tightly against her chest. Your scent's on him, she growled. Idiot. Daniel blinked. My what? She bared her teeth. You touched him. Held him. Do you even understand what that means on this world? He shook his head, still processing. I saved him. You claimed him, she snapped. The surrounding warriors murmured in shock, their golden eyes flicking between them. You carry the scent of protection now. By our laws, he is yours as much as mine. Daniel stared at her, rain dripping from his hair. That's insane. She stepped closer, her glare burning through him. It is binding. For a heartbeat, they just stood there, predator and prey, mother and stranger, before she turned sharply. Bring them, she ordered her warriors. The elders will decide his fate. They marched him through the jungle under heavy guard. The child, her child, kept glancing back at him, confusion in its wide eyes. Daniel tried not to meet its gaze. Every step felt heavier than the last. You're making a mistake, he said. I don't belong here. No, the huntress replied coldly. You don't. And yet the bond says otherwise. Bond. When one of ours is marked by another's scent, it binds spirit to spirit. The forest recognizes it, the air acknowledges it. That's ridiculous. Then why is the storm following you? He looked up, dark clouds still hovered directly above them, though the rest of the jungle glowed golden in sunlight. Coincidence, he muttered. She didn't answer. Ahead, the ruins gave way to an open glade ringed with standing stones. In its center stood a structure of bone and glass that pulsed with faint light. The nest, she said. Where we judge. Inside, the air shimmered with heat and sound. Dozens of her kind surrounded them, hunters, elders, children, their stares sharp as knives. The huntress stood before them, child on her hip. He carried my son, she announced. A ripple of whispers spread through the hall. The human claims him by scent. One of the elders, her skin pale and cracked like marble, leaned forward. Do you contest this, Offworlder? Daniel took a breath. I didn't claim anyone. I just wanted to help. The elder tilted her head. And yet the air says otherwise. The bond is real. Then unmake it, he said. Erase it. Impossible, the huntress snapped. The forest remembers every scent. The elder nodded solemnly. If the bond stands, so must the law. He is protector now, to the child and to us. The room erupted in murmurs. Wait, Daniel said, panic rising. What does that even mean? The huntress's eyes glinted. It means you live with us, or you die." The words struck like thunder. Daniel stepped back, glancing toward the entrance, but the guards blocked his path. The huntress's voice softened slightly, though her posture remained rigid. "The forest will decide. If it accepts you, it will not harm you. If not," she didn't finish. The elder gestured. "Let it be done." The guards pushed him toward the edge of the glade, where the roots of an enormous tree emerged from the ground, glowing faintly with veins of gold. "Enter," the elder commanded. "If the bond is true, the roots will recognize you." Daniel swallowed hard. "And if it's not? Then the earth will take you." He hesitated, then looked at the child. The little one reached out, golden eyes shimmering. "Danelle," it whispered. He sighed. "Guess I'm going in." He stepped onto the glowing roots. At once, the ground trembled. Light spread beneath his boots, rising in pulses through the tree's veins. The air thickened, vibrating with a low hum. He felt warmth flood through him, not burning, but immense, alive. Images flashed in his mind, the child, the beasts, the huntress's eyes. And beneath it all, a whisper, "You touched life and did not destroy it. You may stay." The glow intensified until the entire glade shimmered like sunlight through water. Then it faded, leaving only silence. The elder exhaled. "The bond is sealed." The huntress stared at him, disbelief softening into something unreadable. "You're alive," she said quietly. He nodded, still shaking. "Barely." "Then the forest has chosen," the elder said. "You are one of us now." Daniel met the huntress's gaze. "Great," he muttered. "Does that come with dental?" Her lips twitched, almost, into a smile. The days after the ceremony passed in a blur of strange customs and heavier silences. Daniel had expected hostility, maybe even imprisonment. Instead, he was assigned a shelter, a hollowed trunk lined with woven leaves that shimmered faintly with their own bioluminescent glow. It wasn't much, but it kept out the rain. The huntress, whose name he'd finally learned was Sarah, visited only to bring him food and make sure he hadn't wandered too far from the nest. She didn't speak much, and when she did, it was clipped and precise, her golden eyes giving away nothing. The child, Kale, she had called him, always trailed behind her like a shadow. Sometimes, when Sarah wasn't looking, Kale would grin at Daniel and make faces, his small fangs flashing in play. Daniel would smile back, even when the rest of the tribe's eyes lingered on him like he was a crack in their sacred mirror. The jungle was louder here, its sounds almost rhythmic, like the planet itself was breathing. Daniel spent most mornings sitting near the edge of the glade, where the great golden roots of the ancient tree spread like veins through the earth. He could feel its hum beneath his palms, faint, constant, alive. "You're really a living battery, he muttered to it one morning. The root pulsed once, as if in acknowledgement. He laughed softly. "Guess that's a yes." A familiar voice spoke behind him. "You talk to trees?" Sarah asked, crossing her arms. "Only the ones that answer," he said. She tilted her head slightly. "That one listens." "So I've noticed." "It listens to you," she added quietly. "That worries the elders." He turned. "I'm not trying to break your rules." "No," she said. "But you are bending them." Her tone held a note that wasn't anger, more like reluctant respect. "You shouldn't exist," she said. "Yet the forest likes you." "Story of my life," he said dryly. She looked past him toward the horizon, where mists rolled in like tides. "You saved Kale," she said. "But you don't understand what that means." "You've mentioned," he said, "something about scent and bonds." Her gaze hardened. "It is more than that. To touch one of our young is to share breath and warmth, the oldest sign of kinship in our bloodlines. The forest remembers such things. And that's why your people think I'm his, what, foster dad?" "Guardian," she corrected. "The word is closer to protector. You make it sound like a curse." "Sometimes it is." Her eyes flicked toward Kale, who was chasing glowing insects near the roots. "The bond will draw danger to you. Our kind are not the only ones who sense it. You're saying something's coming for him. For both of you." The tone in her voice left no room for doubt. He felt the air shift colder. Then we'd better be ready, he said. She studied him for a long moment before nodding once. At dusk, she said, I will show you how to survive. That evening, Sarah took him beyond the glade, through a network of winding trails that led to the basin of an old riverbed. The air was thick with mist and the smell of wet stone. Everything here listens, she said. The ground, the leaves, even your heartbeat. If you move like prey, the forest will treat you as prey. So I just have to move like a predator. No, she said. Move like something that does not belong, because you don't. Yet that is your strength. The beasts cannot predict you. She demonstrated by walking across the mud, her steps silent despite her heavy armor. When Daniel tried, he slipped immediately, catching himself on a root. She raised an eyebrow. Graceful. It's slippery. Then use that, she said. Fall where you must. But never stop moving. He followed her lead again, this time slower, mimicking her rhythm. His movements grew steadier, less human, more instinctive. Better, she said. Maybe you won't die tonight after all. They trained for hours, learning to read signs of movement, the subtle vibration in the roots when predators neared, the way mist swirled differently when something large moved behind it. By the time they returned, Daniel's muscles burned, but his mind felt sharper. The forest's noise had changed for him. What once seemed chaotic now had shape and order. You're adapting, Sarah said. Humans are stubborn. We call it determination. We call it survival. She glanced at him sidelong. Kale speaks of you often. He does. He mimics your words, she said. Stubborn is his new favorite. He chuckled. Guess I'm a bad influence. Perhaps, she said softly. But he laughs more now. The statement hung between them, almost tender, until she broke it with a sigh. Do not make him forget who he is. Daniel frowned. I'm not trying to. Then remember who you are, she said, turning away. Before the forest decides for you. The next day began like any other, thick fog, faint sun, and the chorus of insects so loud it felt like pressure in his ears. Daniel was repairing one of his scanner devices when Kale came running, eyes wide, clutching a small carved object. Danelle, he cried. Daniel caught him mid-stride. Hey, slow down. What's wrong? Kale shoved the carving toward him. It was a bone totem, cracked and blackened. From the north, Sarah said behind him, her voice tense. Where the old nests burned. Burned? Daniel asked. Who did that? The scaled, she said grimly. They feed on memory. They smell the bond. He stared at her. You mean they're coming here? She nodded. They hunt those who break bloodlines. To them, Kale's bond with you is an abomination. Fantastic, Daniel muttered. So we're both targets. Not both, she said. All. Her tone made the word heavy, the kind of heavy that meant war. By nightfall, the tribe was preparing to move. Fires burned in circles around the glade, weapons were sharpened, and scouts disappeared into the mist. Daniel watched as Sarah barked commands, her presence magnetic and absolute. She looked more warrior than mother now, her braided hair glinting with gold, her armor etched with new markings of command. You've done this before, he said. Too many times, she replied. We live between survival and extinction. That's a hell of a neighborhood. You speak in riddles, she said, half smiling. We call them jokes. Her expression softened briefly. I think I like jokes. The moment didn't last. The ground trembled, faint at first, then stronger. The firelight flickered. Sarah's eyes widened. They're early. Who? Daniel asked. The scaled, she said. They're burrowing. A deafening crack split the air as the earth exploded near the outer fires, scattering embers into the rain. From the crater, figures crawled out, slick-skinned, with jaws like razors and eyes burning with hunger. Get down! Daniel yelled, pulling Kale behind him. The first of the scaled lunged, moving faster than any animal he'd seen. Sarah intercepted it mid-leap, her spear cutting through its chest in a burst of green ichor. Stay behind me, she shouted. The glade erupted into chaos, warriors clashing, fire and lightning flashing through the storm. Daniel fired his pistol, but the weapon overheated after 3 shots. He threw it aside, grabbing a fallen spear instead. The scaled were everywhere, climbing trees, tearing through huts. He caught one mid-charge, jamming the spear through its throat. The impact jolted his entire arm. Not bad for a human, Sarah called, slashing down another. Not bad for a goddess, he shouted back. She snorted. Flattery won't save you. Didn't say it would. They fought back to back, moving as one, her precision and his unpredictability meshing like rhythm and chaos. Kale huddled beneath the tree roots, watching with wide, terrified eyes. But even warriors tire. As the battle dragged on, the scaled numbers only seemed to grow. Daniel's arms ached, his breath ragged. He stumbled, barely dodging a strike that would have gutted him. Sarah, he shouted. She turned, but too late. One of the creatures lunged from the shadows behind her. Without thinking, Daniel threw himself forward, tackling her to the ground as the creature's claws sliced across his back. Pain seared through him. He rolled over, stabbing upward blindly until the weight went still. Sarah stared at him, shock in her eyes. You don't, he gasped, clutching his wound. I'm fine. She pressed her hand to the injury, her skin glowing faintly. You fool, she whispered. You would risk your life for mine. You'd do the same. I was born to protect. And I wasn't, he said. I chose to. For a moment, neither moved, the world shrank to the space between their breaths. Then a roar shattered it. The largest of the scaled had arrived. It towered over the others, armor like living stone, eyes the color of molten glass. The ground shuddered as it stepped into the glade. It's their alpha, Sarah said. Then let's kill it. You cannot kill it, she said. You can only survive it. Not good enough. Daniel staggered to his feet, gripping his spear. We end this, or it ends us. The creature lunged, its claws slamming into the ground where he'd stood a second earlier. He rolled, grabbing a burning branch from the fire and hurling it at its face. The flames burst against its scales, blinding it for an instant. Now! Sarah cried. Together, they struck, her spear to its throat, his blade to its heart. The creature shrieked, the sound tearing through the jungle like thunder. Then, slowly, it fell. The others recoiled, their unity breaking. One by one, they retreated into the mist, leaving only silence and the sound of rain. When it was over, Daniel collapsed beside the great tree, every muscle trembling. Sarah knelt beside him, her hands slick with blood, his, not hers. You are wounded, she said. Again. You're welcome, he muttered. She smiled faintly, shaking her head. The forest will remember this. You keep saying that like it's a good thing. Sometimes, she said, looking down at him, it is. The child ran to them, throwing small arms around both their necks. Daniel winced, then laughed weakly. Hey, careful. I'm fragile. Kale just buried his face against his shoulder. Sarah watched them, something unreadable flickering in her eyes. The bond is deeper now, she said softly. The forest accepts it. He looked up at her. What about you? She hesitated. I am trying. That's progress, he said, closing his eyes. The last thing he heard before sleep claimed him was her whisper, quiet, almost reverent. Maybe the forest chose right. The world smelled of rain and blood. When Daniel woke, the air was thick with smoke and the crackle of dying fires. His back burned where the claws had torn him, but the pain had dulled to a deep, steady throb. He blinked against the golden light filtering through the canopy. The glade looked different, quieter, broken, but alive. Charred roots still glowed faintly under the ash, pulsing like veins of fire beneath the ground. Around him, the tribe worked in silence, gathering the dead, repairing shelters. Kale sat nearby, clutching a strip of woven cloth like it was a treasure. When he saw Daniel stir, the boy's face lit up. Danelle, he cried, scampering over. Daniel managed a weak smile. Hey, kid. You okay? Kale nodded vigorously, then frowned at the blood on his shoulder. Bad hurt. Just a scratch, Daniel said. The lie was obvious, but the boy seemed to accept it. Sarah appeared soon after, her armor streaked with mud and ichor. You shouldn't be moving, she said. Doctor's orders, Daniel muttered. I'm guessing your people don't have doctors. We have healers, she said, kneeling beside him. And I am one of them. Her hand brushed lightly over his wound, and warmth spread beneath his skin. It wasn't like the burn of medicine, it was soft, organic, like sunlight sinking through water. The pain eased instantly. What is that? He asked. Our bodies remember the first light, she said. We borrow from it when needed. Remind me to borrow some next time I trip over a tree root. She gave a faint huff that might have been laughter. You joke after battle. Strange. It's how we stay human, he said quietly. Humor's our last defense. Her eyes softened, but her voice remained steady. Then guard it well. The forest may take it from you if you forget. Over the next few days, the tribe rebuilt with ruthless efficiency. Daniel tried to help, though Sarah insisted he rest. You heal slower, she said. You don't know that, he protested, lifting another piece of debris. I've met humans before, she said flatly. He froze. You what? Long ago, she said. Before the sky burned and the ships fell. You came as conquerors. We hid. Only one of you stayed behind. He taught us language, then vanished into the storm. Daniel frowned. That must have been centuries ago. Time means little to the forest, she said. It remembers every footstep. And now I'm one of those footsteps, he murmured. She looked at him. Perhaps not. Perhaps you're something new. The idea unsettled him more than it should have. At night, when the jungle fell silent, he would lie awake listening to the faint hum of the great tree and wonder what it meant to be something new. Kale followed him everywhere now, like a shadow with too much curiosity. He mimicked Daniel's words, stumbled through English with surprising precision. This, the boy said one morning, pointing to Daniel's wrist device, talk. Yeah, Daniel said, crouching beside him. It talks to other machines. Machines far away. That's the idea. Find home. Daniel hesitated. Maybe. The boy frowned, small brow furrowing. You sad? Just tired, Daniel said. But Kale didn't believe him. The child touched his hand gently, a gesture so simple it broke something in his chest. You have scent now, Kale said. Family scent. Daniel froze. You mean the bond? Yes, Kale said proudly. You smell like sky and storm. It makes the roots hum. Daniel laughed softly, though his throat tightened. That's good, I think. Mother says bond makes you strong. Your mother says a lot, he teased. She's right, Kale said simply. She's always right. Daniel glanced towards Sarah in the distance, sharpening a blade beneath a shaft of sunlight. Yeah, he whispered. I'm starting to see that. It wasn't long before word of their survival spread beyond the valley. Travelers came, wounded, hungry, desperate. Some were kin to Sarah's tribe, others exiles seeking refuge. But not all who came were allies. The forest's balance had shifted, and the Scale's retreat was not defeat. They regroup, Sarah warned one night, eyes fixed on the horizon. They'll come again. Then we'll be ready, Daniel said. We barely survived the first time. This time we'll fight smarter. She turned to him. You speak like a soldier. I was an engineer, he said. But war doesn't care about job titles. Then you understand loss. Too well. Her gaze lingered on him. That's why the forest kept you. He blinked. The forest doesn't keep people. It eats them. It kept you, she said quietly. And it gave you to Kale. The words unsettled him more than he could admit. You make it sound like fate. Fate is just the forest speaking slowly, she said. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel began to notice changes, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. His senses sharpened, he could smell rain before it fell, feel tremors through the ground before they came. His skin healed faster, his eyes adjusted perfectly to the dim jungle light. When he mentioned it, Sarah didn't look surprised. The bond is deeper than scent, she said. It rewrites. Rewrites what? Your place in the world. That's poetic, he said. But not very helpful. You're between us now, she said simply. Not human. Not of the forest. So, what, I'm some kind of hybrid? No, she said. You are bridge. He looked at her sharply. Between what? Between what was and what will be. You could at least warn me before you drop existential bombs like that. Her lips curved faintly. Would it change anything? Probably not. Then no warning, she said. Learn to listen instead. One evening, he found Kale staring up at the stars through a break in the canopy. Counting again. Daniel asked, sitting beside him. Mother says stars are roots in the sky, Kale said. Do you think that's true? Maybe, Daniel said. Where I come from, we used to think stars were fires that never went out. Then maybe they're both, Kale said. Daniel smiled. You're smart, kid. Like you. Smarter. Kale's expression grew thoughtful. Will you go back to the stars? The question hit harder than he expected. I don't know, Daniel said honestly. If I can fix my beacon, maybe someone will find me. But you're here, Kale said. With us. Yeah, Daniel said softly. I am. The boy nodded solemnly. Then stars can wait. Daniel looked at him, at the faint glow in his golden eyes, and wondered if the stars would ever mean the same again. The next morning, the earth shook again, not from beasts this time, but from something far older. The great tree's glow dimmed, its hum faltering. The tribe gathered beneath it, murmuring in unease. Sarah placed her palm on the root, frowning. The heart weakens, she said. The forest is sick. How? Daniel asked. Too much war. Too much blood in the soil. The roots remember pain. He knelt beside her. Can we fix it? Maybe, she said. But it needs balance. It needs both our worlds. He stared at her. You mean, me? The bond tied you to its rhythm, she said. You carry the echo of its song. And what happens if I can't help? Then it dies, she said. And everything with it. The silence that followed was immense, broken only by the soft sound of Kale's breathing. Daniel exhaled. All right, he said. Tell me what to do. They worked for days, carving channels, redirecting the streams that fed the roots, planting seeds mixed with bioluminescent spores. Daniel's engineering knowledge filled the gaps in their rituals, while Sarah guided him through the forest's living language. Each action carried weight, each movement part of a conversation with the world itself. At night, they rested by the glowing pools that formed around the roots. You're different, Sarah said one evening. How so? You listen, she said. Most of your kind hear only themselves. Guess I'm defective. No, she said. You're the reason the forest still hopes. The words lodged in his chest. You really think it hopes? Yes, she said. And it's waiting to see if you do. He looked at her, at the faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes, and realized he did. By the seventh night, the glow began to return. The great tree pulsed brighter, its roots humming with renewed strength. But something else stirred too, a deep vibration beneath their feet, like the heartbeat of something waking. That's not just the tree, Daniel said. No, Sarah whispered. That's the core. Good thing or bad thing? Depends on whether it remembers love or wrath. You make optimism sound terrifying. She gave a faint smile. It usually is. The ground split slightly, revealing streams of golden light coursing upward. The tribe gasped, falling to their knees. It's answering, Sarah said. The balance returns. Daniel watched the light spread like veins through the forest, illuminating every branch, every leaf. For a brief moment, it was beautiful, until the light turned red. That's not good, he said. No, she breathed. That means something else woke up with it. The air grew thick with static, and the hum of the forest twisted into a roar. Lightning tore through the canopy as the roots convulsed. Back! Sarah shouted, pulling Kale behind her. The light burst outward, forming a shape, vast, amorphous, like molten glass given life. It spoke without words, its voice a vibration that rattled bones. You bind what was sundered. You heal what should remain broken. Sarah dropped to one knee. The core spirit, she whispered. The ancient will of the planet. Daniel felt its gaze on him, not with eyes, but through the weight of its presence. You carry scent of man and child of root. You dare balance what cannot be bound. We're trying to fix this, Daniel said. You cannot fix a wound by reopening it. The light surged. Sarah raised her weapon, but Daniel stepped forward. Wait, he said. It's not our enemy. It's not your friend either, she hissed. Maybe not, he said, but it's listening. The entity's glow flickered, curious. Why do you speak when you should kneel? Because I'm tired of watching things die, Daniel said. I've seen worlds burn. I've seen people lose everything. I won't let this one fade too. Silence fell. Then the light dimmed, softening. Then prove you belong. The ground opened beneath him, and before Sarah could react, Daniel fell. Daniel fell into darkness, landing hard on a floor that vibrated faintly beneath his back. The light from the core spirit above filtered down in flickers through cracks in the stone ceiling, revealing walls etched with symbols he did not understand. His breath came in short, sharp gasps, and Kale scrambled to his side, tugging his arm with small, cold hands. "Danelle!" the boy cried, eyes wide and golden. Daniel struggled upright, taking in the cavernous chamber that stretched far beyond what his visor could detect. The walls pulsed softly, veins of gold and blue running beneath the surface, illuminating the figures that now emerged from the shadows. Sarah stepped forward, her armor glinting in the strange light, Kale clutched safely in her arms. "Stay close," she said, her voice low, commanding. "This place does not forgive mistakes." The chamber was alive, each vibration in the floor carrying a language Daniel could almost comprehend. The core spirit's voice hummed through the walls, a low resonance that tugged at the air and stirred the roots embedded in the rock. "You carry what you do not understand. You claim what you cannot own." Daniel swallowed hard. "I didn't claim anything," he said aloud. "I only wanted to save him." The vibration shifted, pulsing faster as if in response. "You do not speak only for yourself. The scent is yours and his. Your bond cannot be broken." He looked at Kale, gripping his hand tightly. The child's golden eyes mirrored the pulsing veins of the chamber. Daniel understood in that moment. The core spirit saw not only their lives, but the connection between them, fragile yet undeniable. He exhaled slowly. "Then I guess we have no choice but to follow its path." Sarah guided them deeper into the cavern, each step measured, precise. Daniel followed, muscles straining, body still stiff from his fall. The roots of the ancient tree had grown into intricate bridges, stretching across molten fissures and twisting walls, pulsating faintly with the core spirit's energy. "Do you always walk this calmly?" Daniel asked. "Calm is survival," she replied, her eyes scanning every shadow. "Panic gets eaten first." He tried to match her pace, but his human instincts made him stumble over roots and uneven stone. Kale clung to his shoulder, mumbling soft syllables Daniel did not understand, but the tone was soothing. Every pulse of the roots beneath them seemed to respond to the child's presence, growing steadier, brighter. "The bond strengthens with him," Sarah said quietly, not turning. "That is why the forest listens." Hours passed. The cavern opened into a vast chamber at last, dominated by a crystalline pool that glowed with an inner light. At the center floated a sphere of pure energy, golden at its core, streaked with blue and silver. Daniel recognized it immediately, the heart of the planet itself, alive and aware. The core spirit's voice resonated from every surface. "You approach what was sacred. You bring innocence into shadow. Why should I allow this?" Daniel stepped forward cautiously. "Because he needs protection," he said firmly. "Because I choose to be his guardian." The pulsing light above shifted, casting long, flickering shadows across the chamber. "Choice is rare among humans. You speak boldly. You are remarkable." The voice's tone softened slightly, and the air vibrated less violently. Daniel felt the tension in his muscles ease. He swallowed, realizing the core spirit was listening, not just observing. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows, taller than Sarah, clad in armor that shimmered like obsidian, eyes burning gold like the others, but this one radiated authority. "Intruder," the figure hissed, voice low and sharp. "You carry our child. You disrupt the balance." Daniel froze. "I'm not here to disrupt anything," he said, voice steady. "I'm here to save him." The figure stepped closer, its aura flickering with energy, sharp as a blade. "Scent binds you," it said. "You are marked. You are claimed." Daniel's heart pounded. By the forest, or by her? He gestured toward Sarah, who stood protectively in front of Kale. "The bond is shared. I am nothing without them. I do not claim, I protect." The figure's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it." The chamber erupted into light and motion. Roots and stone pulsed, responding to the core spirit's agitation. Energy crackled across the crystalline pool, forming barriers that reshaped the space into an intricate maze of light and shadow. The tall figure moved like liquid steel, testing Daniel's reactions. Sarah and Kale followed, staying just out of reach. "Keep moving," Sarah whispered. "The core spirit observes every hesitation." Daniel adjusted his stance, ducking under a pillar of energy, sidestepping a surge of roots that shot toward him. Each step, each breath carried weight. He had no weapons beyond a simple spear, but instinct guided his movements as if the forest itself guided his hands. The golden eyes of the figure tracked him relentlessly, analyzing, predicting. After what felt like hours, Daniel reached a raised platform in the center of the chamber. The sphere pulsed faster, responding to his proximity. He realized the platform was not solid, it was suspended by energy, vibrating gently beneath his feet. Kale grabbed his arm, tugging him back. "It's okay," he said softly, surprising himself with calmness. The child's presence steadied him more than any thought could. Sarah nodded. "Focus on the bond. Let it guide you." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He could feel the child's heartbeat, the rhythm of the roots beneath the platform, the pulse of the core spirit above. All synchronized. He opened his eyes. "I'm ready," he said. The tall figure lunged, but this time Daniel didn't react with fear. He moved in harmony with the energy around him, each dodge and step guided by the pulse. His spear, now an extension of his will, deflected the figure's strikes, none harming him. Sarah's presence behind him, Kale's small hand on his shoulder, they reinforced his resolve. The core spirit's hum grew louder, responding to their unity. "You move with purpose. You honor what is sacred." Daniel adjusted his aim, thrusting the spear toward the figure, not to harm, but to connect, tapping a glowing node on its armor. The figure froze, energy crackling. Recognition established. Bond accepted. The chamber's energy calmed. Roots retracted gently, and the platform stabilized. Daniel stumbled to his knees, breathing heavily. Sarah dropped beside him, Kale in her arms, smiling faintly. "You did it," she whispered. "The forest sees you now. Not as intruder, but as part of its rhythm." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do this alone." "No," she said. "You all acted as one. That is why the bond holds." The core spirit pulsed softly, golden and blue light washing the chamber. Balance restored. Innocence preserved. Guardians accepted. Daniel exhaled, realizing he had never felt relief like this in his life. Kale clambered down from Sarah's arms and ran to him, throwing his small body around Daniel's waist. Daniel laughed despite the exhaustion. "Hey, careful," he said, hugging the boy close. Sarah watched, golden eyes softening. "The bond strengthens with every shared heartbeat," she said. "Do not take it lightly." Daniel nodded, feeling the forest's pulse align with his own. "I won't," he said quietly. "I swear." The chamber pulsed once more, a gentle wave of light sweeping across every surface, sealing their bond permanently. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke through the canopy, scattering mist and illuminating the jungle in hues of gold and silver. Daniel stood at the edge of the chamber, Kale beside him, Sarah behind. The forest seemed to breathe in unison with them, alive, aware, forgiving. "We did it," Daniel whispered. For now, Sarah corrected, her eyes flicking toward the horizon. The forest's trials are never done. Then we'll face them, he said, glancing at Kale. Together. The child smiled, tiny fangs flashing in delight. Sarah's lips curved faintly into what might have been the closest thing to approval Daniel had seen in days. The core spirit pulsed one last time, golden veins extending toward them like welcoming arms. Guardians accepted. Future secure. The trio exited the chamber together, stepping into the humid morning air. The jungle was alive, singing with renewed vigor. Birds, or their alien equivalents, streaked across the canopy. Small creatures darted through foliage. Daniel inhaled deeply, feeling the bond thrumming in his chest. I guess this is home now, he said quietly. Kale reached for his hand, wrapping tiny fingers around his wrist. Daniel squeezed gently. Yeah, he whispered. Home. Sarah followed, leading them toward the nest, her golden eyes scanning every shadow. The forest watches, she said softly. And so do I. Daniel looked at her, faint smile forming. Then we're ready for whatever comes next. The first rays of sunlight broke fully through the jungle, casting golden light on the moss-covered ruins, the ancient roots, and the trio moving together. For the first time, Daniel felt the weight of responsibility and the thrill of belonging in equal measure. He had entered the forest as a stranger. Now, he was part of it, protector, guardian, bridge between worlds. Kale laughed beside him, his golden eyes shimmering with trust and delight. Sarah walked silently, ever vigilant, yet a hint of something unspoken softened her posture. Daniel realized, with awe, that the forest had not only accepted him, it had embraced him. And somewhere deep within the thrum of the jungle, the core spirit pulsed in harmony with their bond, a living testament to survival, courage, and the ties that even humans could forge in the wild. The jungle pulsed with life and danger in equal measure as Daniel, Kale, and Sarah moved deeper into the forest. Each step felt heavier now, not from fatigue, but from awareness. Every vibration in the soil, every rustle of leaves, and the faint hum of unseen roots beneath their feet told him that the forest was watching. Sarah led the way, her steps precise, her armor whispering against the undergrowth. The golden eyes of Kale mirrored her intensity as he clung to Daniel's side, small fingers intertwined with his own. Stay alert, Sarah whispered. The scaled do not sleep, and they know the bond between you two. Daniel's grip tightened on the spear he carried. He had faced the scaled before, yes, but never in this part of the forest, the heart of their territory, where roots pulsed with the energy of centuries and the canopy blocked out all but scattered shafts of pale light. As they advanced, the ground trembled faintly, a rhythm unlike anything Daniel had felt before. The forest is speaking, Sarah murmured. It senses their approach. His scanner emitted static bursts, confirming movement ahead, but the readings were fragmented. Shadows flickered among the giant trees, unnatural, like heat mirages dancing in the mist. This isn't going to be easy, Daniel said. Sarah paused, turning her golden eyes toward him. Easy is never an option when the scaled are involved. You're bound to the child. That bond calls them, whether you want it to or not. Daniel swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. He had been chosen by scent, by instinct, by the bond that tied him to Kale. And now, every predator in this forest knew it. The first of the scaled emerged from the mist without warning, sleek, black-skinned, eyes glowing like molten gold, limbs longer than any human's, their claws leaving deep gouges in the earth. Daniel raised his spear instinctively, Kale gripping his leg, trembling but holding on. Sarah moved like water, positioning herself between them and the threat. Stay close, she whispered. You cannot outrun what knows your bond. The creatures circled, testing, sniffing the air with tongues that flickered out like lightning. One lunged, but Sarah intercepted with a precise strike of her spear, sending it crashing into a tree. Another charged toward Daniel, and he met it with the flat of his blade, shoving it back as Kale shrieked in fear. The forest hummed around them, roots writhing beneath the soil, almost alive, responding to every heartbeat and movement. Hours passed in a blur of motion. The scaled were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. Daniel's muscles burned, sweat mixing with rain on his brow, but his focus never wavered. Kale clung to him, whispering small encouragements, mimicking the words Daniel had taught him. Steady, steady, the boy said repeatedly, and Daniel drew strength from it. Sarah's movements were a dance of death, every strike calculated, every leap precise, each movement reinforcing the bond they now shared. He began to anticipate the scale's attacks, moving instinctively with Sarah's rhythm, the forest itself guiding his limbs. At one point, a creature lunged from the shadows. Daniel rolled, grasping a branch that had fallen from a tree, and swung it like a bat, connecting with the scale's head. It shrieked and retreated, leaving a faint trail of smoke in the air. Finally, they reached a narrow canyon, a natural bottleneck. "Here," Sarah said, crouching low. "We can hold them." Daniel nodded, planting his spear firmly in the mud, Cale's small hand gripping his wrist. "We'll make a stand," he said. The scaled approached, their eyes glowing brighter in the dim light, tongues flicking, claws scraping stone. One of the larger ones, its body scarred and glistening with moisture, stepped forward, growling low. Daniel could feel the vibrations in the canyon walls, resonating in his chest. "The bond calls them," he reminded himself. He would not falter. Not now. Not ever. The first wave hit. Sarah moved in perfect synchrony with Daniel, her strikes parrying claws and slicing limbs with lethal precision. Daniel swung his spear, striking a scaled mid-leap, the impact echoing in the canyon. Cale shrieked but held on, the child's golden eyes wide but unafraid. The scaled faltered as if sensing the bond's strength, hesitating in their assault. Daniel seized the moment, shoving another back into the narrow canyon wall, toppling it into the mud below. Sarah signaled, and together they pushed forward, driving the creatures back, their numbers thinning under the combined force of human and alien skill. Hours became a blur. Rain turned to mist, then to night. The battle reached a momentary lull. The scaled regrouped on higher ground, their glowing eyes reflecting off the wet stone. Daniel knelt beside Cale, checking for injuries. The child was shaken but unharmed. Sarah wiped her blade, her chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. "This is not over," she said quietly. "They will return." Daniel exhaled, leaning on his spear. "Then we'll be ready. Whatever comes, we face it together." Cale nodded solemnly, resting his head against Daniel's shoulder. Daniel looked at Sarah, her golden eyes scanning the darkness, vigilant, fierce, but there was a softness there too, one he hadn't noticed before. "Thank you," he said. She gave a faint nod. "Do not thank me. You survived because you chose to act, not to fear." Dawn broke over the canyon, the first light scattering across broken trees and shattered roots. The scaled had retreated into the mist, their silhouettes vanishing into the jungle's depth. Daniel stood, shoulders aching, body bruised, but resolve stronger than ever. Cale tugged at his hand, pointing toward the forest. "Home?" the child asked. Daniel smiled faintly. "Home," he confirmed. Sarah glanced around, her golden eyes sharp. "The forest watches," she said. "It will remember this day." Daniel nodded, feeling the bond thrumming in his chest, stronger than ever. "And so will I," he said quietly, lifting Cale gently. Together, the three of them moved through the damp, pulsing jungle, survivors of the first trial, ready to face whatever the wilds had left to throw at them. The heart of the forest pulsed beneath their feet, alive and aware, and Daniel understood fully what Sarah had meant. The bond was not just scent, not just protection. It was a living connection, one that could draw danger and strength alike, shaping their survival. He could feel it entwining with Cale's heartbeat, intertwining with the rhythm of the jungle, and binding him, irrevocably, to this strange, fierce, unforgiving world. For the first time, he did not resist it. He let the bond guide him, let it carry him forward. He would not fail. Not the child, not the forest, not Sarah, and not himself. The next wave, when it came, would find them ready. The sun barely rose above the dense canopy, spilling pale gold across the jungle floor, but the light carried a weight Daniel had never felt before. The ground still pulsed faintly beneath his boots, the rhythm of the forest heartbeat now intertwined with Cale's small hand in his. Sarah walked slightly ahead, her golden eyes scanning every shadow, every glint of movement, while the child trailed beside Daniel, curious yet trusting. The scaled had retreated after the last skirmish, but Daniel knew it was temporary. Their scent bond with Cale made him a target in ways he did not fully understand, and the forest itself seemed to hum in anticipation, aware of the balance that had been disrupted. "We move carefully," Sarah said, her voice low and commanding. "Every root, every stone, Every whisper can be used against us. Daniel nodded, gripping his spear, muscles taut with readiness. The path they followed twisted through ancient trees, roots like veins glowing faintly beneath the jungle floor. Daniel realized how much his senses had changed. He could feel the subtle shifts of air, the vibrations from creatures moving far ahead, even the faint pulse of energy that radiated from the core spirit deeper within the forest. "It's guiding us," he murmured, almost to himself. Kale looked up with wide golden eyes. "Guiding home." "Guiding survival," Daniel corrected softly. Sarah turned her head slightly, acknowledging the observation without comment. The forest had accepted the bond, yes, but it remained vigilant, almost judgmental, ensuring that only those worthy of its trust could navigate its depths. Every step they took was mirrored by the slow, deliberate rhythm of the roots below, as if the world itself was walking with them. Hours passed with no sign of immediate danger. The jungle seemed calm, almost serene, but Daniel knew better. Predators waited in the shadows, and the scaled were regrouping, strategizing for their next attack. "We'll need to prepare," Sarah said, crouching near a fallen tree that formed a natural barricade. She gestured for Daniel and Kale to sit behind it. "They'll come when least expected, when the bond calls them strongest." Daniel glanced at Kale, who mimicked his tension, gripping the carved charm he always carried. "How do we stop them?" Daniel asked. "We don't," Sarah said sharply. "We survive, and we fight in ways they cannot predict. You have already bent their instincts once, now you must do it again." Daniel exhaled, realizing that his human ingenuity, combined with the bond, was now their most potent weapon. The first attack came at dusk. Shadows shifted between the massive roots, and a group of scaled leapt into the clearing with predatory speed. Daniel raised his spear, Kale clinging to his side, and Sarah moved with a predator's grace. The creatures lunged, claws tearing at roots and mud, but Daniel's instincts guided him. He struck with precise, measured movements, each attack designed not merely to wound but to misdirect and confuse. Sarah's spear arcs were lethal and efficient, every strike reinforcing the rhythm he had learned. Kale crouched low, chanting small words Daniel didn't understand but which seemed to calm the forest, shifting roots and sending tremors beneath the attackers. The scaled faltered, their motions jerky, uncertain. Daniel realized the bond was no longer just a connection, it was influence, shaping the very environment around them. The battle raged into the night. Rain fell in sheets, soaking the forest and turning mud into treacherous traps. Daniel's body ached, wounds stinging with each movement, but the focus sharpened. Every sound, the hiss of rain, the snap of a branch, the low growl of the scaled, was interpreted through the bond. He anticipated attacks, redirected energy, and coordinated with Sarah without words. Kale's presence was a constant anchor. Even when he could not see the attack, he felt it through the child's heartbeat. Together, they became a triad of defense and instinct, moving as one with the forest, and the scaled struggled to keep pace. Each predator that fell was a testament to the bond, to human persistence, and to the uncanny grace of the alien huntress beside him. By dawn, the jungle was littered with the fallen scaled. Their bodies melted into the mud, dissolved by the forest's energy, leaving only echoes of their screeches behind. Daniel leaned heavily against Sarah, chest rising and falling with exhaustion. Kale climbed onto his lap, small hands gripping tightly. "We did it," the boy whispered. Daniel nodded. "For now," he said, tasting victory and relief in equal measure. Sarah's eyes, golden and sharp even in the morning light, softened for a fleeting moment. "The forest recognizes you," she said. "Not merely as human, but as part of its rhythm. You have survived, and through survival, you are accepted." Daniel exhaled, letting the weight of her words sink in. The bond hummed beneath him, steady and warm, a reminder of the life he had chosen to protect. They spent the day tending to minor injuries and repairing makeshift shelters. The forest pulsed around them, quiet but alive, its energy now a steady hum rather than a jagged tension. Daniel watched Kale exploring the clearing, marveling at the way the child moved with confidence, no longer the frightened cub he had rescued. "He's learning," Daniel said. Sarah nodded. "He will adapt faster than most, guided by both the bond and his mother's instinct." She gestured toward the ruins, where sunlight revealed massive trees twisted into bridges and natural towers. "The forest thrives in response to the bond. Your presence has awakened more than the child. You've stirred the ancient rhythms. Daniel felt a swell of pride and caution. Their survival was not a single victory. It was a delicate balance maintained by vigilance, instinct, and connection. The evening brought a calm that was almost deceptive. Mist rolled in from the valleys, and the glow from the roots illuminated the jungle with a soft, golden radiance. Sarah and Daniel sat by a pool of reflective water, Kale sleeping nearby. "Do you ever wonder what will happen when the scaled regroup?" Daniel asked. Sarah's gaze remained fixed on the reflections in the water. "Yes," she said softly, "and I know they will. But this forest is ours now, in part, because of what you have done. They will face more than flesh and claw next time." Daniel nodded. "I just hope I'm ready." "You are," she said, voice firm. "You have been chosen by the bond, tempered by survival, and guided by instinct. That is all you will ever need." He exhaled, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly, but his gaze remained wary. Survival was never guaranteed, and he knew this victory was but a pause in the ongoing struggle. Night deepened, and the bond pulsed in tandem with Kale's heartbeat, guiding Daniel's thoughts. The child stirred, blinking up at him with golden eyes that reflected the forest's glow. "Danelle," Kale whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Yes, kid." "Will they come again?" Daniel's chest tightened. "They will," he admitted. "But we will be ready. Together." The boy nodded, hugging his small body to Daniel's side. Sarah placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "The forest remembers every act. Every bond you reinforce makes the jungle stronger. Your courage now echoes through every root, every leaf." Daniel looked out into the darkness, shadows of the trees stretching long, yet he felt no fear. The forest had accepted him, the bond had anchored him. Together, they could withstand anything. Hours later, as the first light of dawn spread across the misty canopy, Daniel, Sarah, and Kale stood atop a ridge, surveying the vast jungle below. Golden veins of energy pulsed faintly in the soil, highlighting the network of roots that crisscrossed beneath their feet. "We've done more than survive," Daniel said quietly. "We've changed this place." Sarah's golden eyes met his. "And it has changed you," she said. "The bond is not one-sided. It shapes you as much as you shape it." Daniel nodded, taking in the enormity of their journey, the battles, the survival, the bond that had forced him to become more than human, more than guardian. Kale tugged at his hand, eager to explore the ridge. Daniel smiled, letting the child lead the way. From the distance, a ripple of movement drew their attention. The scaled were regrouping, but Daniel felt no panic. The bond hummed with strength, Sarah's presence sharpened every instinct, and Kale's trust anchored him to the world. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "Always," Daniel replied. Together, the three of them descended into the jungle, moving as one with the forest, the bond guiding every step, preparing to face whatever challenges would come next. The jungle thrummed with life, energy, and hope. The scaled may return, but so would courage, unity, and the unbreakable connection forged in the wilds.